The crowd, she loves us. Thank you, Nighthawk, and welcome to Platos Cave on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. Home to ideas. That's important. Ideas are important. And conversations in the chat room. I'm in there now. Dave is in there now. That's right, we're in there. Get in there. Be part of the conversation. The station does not receive any funds from any organization at all. Anywhere. Never, ever. And therefore carries no agenda or advertising, which is pretty cool. In order to keep it that way, what we do need is a donation from our esteemed listenership. That's you guys and girls. If you can afford to, please donate. Any kind of currency is fine, including crypto or whatever have you. You know, Rwandan shekels. I'm not sure what the currency in Rwanda is, to be honest. Yeah, if you can, great. If you can't, that's okay too, because times are tough all over, which is is so true, and it just got tougher in Australia for some anyway. So maybe you can tell people about the station. Telling people about the station is just as good as donating. As long as they start listening, coming in, checking out the shows, checking out the archives, which are free. I was going to mention a bit later, but they're free. Archives are free, so you can go and check those out. So donate if you can. Tell people about the station if you can't. Well, tell them about the station if you donate as well. It's all good. Today is the 25th of January, 2024. And I know I'm like a broken record, but I still haven't got a flying car. You can catch the cave on the air, on the line, and I just watched the internship today. On the line. And onto your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on the Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Radio is not dead. Radio has just moved. Right? Radio is not dead. Radio is not dead. Now, before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodian of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave, that is
the Bunjalung.
Dave, and for myself, of course, it's the Dark people. In steamy and sweltering Pemmelway here, and we like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And
correct.
We need to heed the expertise and know-how that First Nations people everywhere have. More important than ever, especially in Australia, especially when it comes to forest management. Or bush management in Australia, we like to call it, because they did and we don't, and that's why we're having these horrendous fires which kill. And we shouldn't build in all the places we build, Dave. We shouldn't build in all the places we build, but we do. I mean, why would you build in a floodplain? You wouldn't build in quicksand, would you? You shouldn't build in an area where you know that fire is going to destroy everything that you have.
Sure.
Unless. Yeah, sure, silence you. Apparently, in Australia, I'm sure it's similar for the rest of the world, but in Australia, they're projecting by 2030 there will be 500,000 homes which will become uninsurable.
Mm-hmm. Meaning
they will never be insured because no one will carry the risk. And another milestone, by the way, well, this is a terrible milestone, but another milestone this week, apparently, we have reached 27 million citizens.
That's true, we did.
27 million. That's the population of Greater New York. So, what?
Take that.
Take that.
Take that, close living.
Yes. And that's in a country that has the rough area, same area as the United States of America, continental United States of America, not including Alaska. Not including Alaska.
No.
Yeah, that's a pretty big land, and only 26. But having said that, a lot of it is desert. It's completely uninhabitable unless we do some serious geological and biological engineering here in.
Do you know how many towns, Mackie, that hit 50 in the last 4 days?
I do not know.
Lots. It's a big number.
Love the accuracy of your reporting, sir.
Well, thank you. No, I did write down. I know Lyndon and another couple of them.
50.
Yeah.
50. Now, I've experienced 50 in Dubai. I have to say, in Australia, I haven't. In Dubai, it's like, how can I best describe it? It was a bit humid, but it was like someone was hitting you with a wet hot towel in the face all the time, just like constantly, and forget running.
So where do you go for your holidays? Oh, I go back there. So yeah, Linden and Roebourne were over 50 degrees.
Wow, over 50. Holy
over
moly.
50 degrees Celsius.
See, if you hit, okay, so Dave, you've told everybody quite correctly that in Australia the hot water system is set to 50 degrees Celsius, because anything beyond that and you scald yourself.
It causes damage to you, that's right.
Oh, completely. It's hot, right? So if the air temperature is 50 plus, I mean, we're now entering into a
barbecue.
Zone.
I can smell crackling.
Well, I haven't even turned the oven on. It's where you start. It starts to become uninhabitable. Forget uninsurable. Let's park that for a second. You will no longer be able to live in certain areas of the world, and certainly in Australia. I mean, Death Valley is one of the hottest places in the world, right? Nobody lives in Death Valley, I can tell you that. And these are temperatures that we're getting here in inhabited areas, right? That's the critical thing that Dave is trying to convey here. These are towns, or townships, etc., in Australia where we have had 50 plus. Yeah. What's that? Is that 120 Fahrenheit? Am I off? I don't know. Let me just double check that. I don't want to tell you something that's wrong. But it certainly is. It becomes unlivable, right? It's here we go. At 50, let's call it 50 Celsius. It's 122 Fahrenheit. There you go. If you can put that on your sandwich and eat it. But
toast.
Toast. That's pretty much it. But that's hot. And if it gets hotter, and we haven't reached the end of heating up yet.
No,
right?
We haven't.
So, look, I hate to say it, but I mean, 60.
There's only so many kilojoules that a certain square meter of ground perpendicular to the sun can get to.
Yeah.
There's a maximum if the sun doesn't get hotter.
Yeah. Now,
and the atmosphere doesn't get thinner, and the ozone layer doesn't change.
Yeah. So what they're saying is, this is medical news today. Researchers investigated when the body starts exerting more energy to keep itself cool at high temperatures. They found that this upper temperature limit lies between 40 degrees centigrade, which is 104 Fahrenheit, and 50 degrees centigrade, which is 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's when the human body stops functioning optimally.
But, well, hey, I would have liked to have received $1 million to tell people that.
Now, okay, so that's 50. Now we are at 50.
That's right.
Okay? So let's be clear here. That we're there. We have now. That's no longer a milestone to be achieved. What though? I wonder is
the next limit?
I mean, well, I'm reading this article here. I'm a bit of a speed reader. There's nothing that talks about anything beyond 50 degrees. Oh, wow.
Well, only in Australia, Mackie, did we create a temperature colour on the map that was 50 to 55.
Yeah.
Because that's hot, apparently.
It's hot. Here we go. Humans cannot survive 60 degrees Celsius over an extended period. That's 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
You might have had a spa, with... in a beautiful cabin somewhere in the snow. You've got the ladle, you put the lovely water over the hot rocks, and you could walk out of there any time.
I've got something here from a Business Insider website, India. While the human body cells start to die anywhere between 46 to 60 degrees Celsius, temperatures of around 50 degrees is when most irreversible damage to cells start as the proteins within begin to coagulate. So what that means is you're starting to be cooked like an egg.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means. Just so we're clear. They might have said that's when you start cooking instead of proteins begin to coagulate. It's like having, it's 2,000 millimeters of rain. Really? Thank you for that.
They start to get cooked there. You know, whose goose is cooked at that temperature?
Our geese are all cooked. Now, but livestock is in the same boat, by the way.
Oh yeah, totally. All life is.
Right?
Yeah.
In fact, smaller livestock, like, I don't know, poultry, etc., they would die at temperatures of probably 45, 50, or be extremely uncomfortable. I mean, large animals have better heat dissipation, so cows probably could handle a bit more. But I'm telling you, this is not good. And not only that, at that point, even getting to 50, right? I mean, you have to drink a lot of water. No, but you can't just drink water. You also have to make sure that the minerals are replaced in your body. So I in my freezer, I've got a stock of hydrolyte. Now, hydrolyte is a I don't know if it's Australian specific, but it's a compound that you can eat like a lollipop, like an ice lolly. No sugar. It's just got it's got electrolytes and minerals, etc. To replace whatever your body loses in heat. So my kids eat it all the time in summer, right?
Does it taste as good as those insulin pops that we had?
Yeah, it tastes just as good. It's not. Look, my kids love it because that's what they're used to. They're not used to sugary lollipops, so for them that's a treat. And thank Christ for that. But they do. I don't have to tell them to eat it. They ask me if they can eat it, and that's great. But this is what we need as we get hotter and hotter. And that's even without any exertion, because, I mean, if you sit in air conditioning, good for you, but there will be brownouts, so air conditioning will fail. You have to keep hydrated. And water alone is not enough. It just isn't. You have to replace all the minerals you're losing. So if you're living in a really hot area, you have to eat a lot of salt as well. You have a very salty diet. Now that's a problem normally, but not if you sweat it all out again. Okay?
Yeah, that's right. So that's why you might find, the Gatorades have a high sugar and salt content.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to load it up with more salt, so they've got to add sugar to balance it. It also has the hydrolytes in it, but probably not as good as the medical version, to be honest. But you're right, Mackie. This is where we're going. So if you can cool down, the problem about trying to cool down when it's extremely hot is there's very little relief anywhere with no power. So you can't even get much relief from just turning the cold tap on in the shower, because it's going to be in the 20s. It'll be 26 degree cold water in the shower. Celsius.
Yeah.
It'll cool you down, but there's very little relief to it.
Oh, look, that's the truth, right? Now, the only thing that will give you some relief is if you have got motion of air. Like, even if you've got air conditioning, get a fan or something. But I was in the gym years ago before COVID, and it was, I think it was 44, 45 degrees outside, right?
Yeah.
So, of course,
crazy,
the gym is
man.
No.
I'm going to go to the gym.
Well, the gym was air conditioned. So
I'm going to jog to the gym first.
I melted on the way. What happened? He melted. But the point is, I came out of the gym.
Yeah.
Right. And my breath, which is obviously body temperature, was colder than the surrounding air. Just my breath. No, colder than the surrounding air.
I've done that. Yeah.
It's just nuts.
Go
on.
Brand new key? Really? Passed away, Melanie?
I saw it earlier on Facebook. Yeah, she passed away.
Oh, bugger.
It's a shame.
I like brand new key.
Me too.
Yeah, so it's hot, right? There's no power. If you're lucky enough to have cold water somewhere, that'd be good.
Oh yeah.
Like a pool or a river or a beach or something like that. So, that can be the only place that you can find relief. I had friends, Mackie, that equatorial holidays, try and get to the equator somewhere and have a great holiday, and they said, being from either Melbourne, like a cold climate, and they go, that was just impossible to cool down. Couldn't cool down.
No, I was in Phuket with my wife on a first baby move, which is now over 10 years ago, and we go into the Andaman Sea. So the Andaman Sea is it's just there it's the ocean that's there. It's called the Andaman Sea. So the resort had a pool. That was okay. But I went to the beach, and then I went into the water. The water was warmer than the air.
35 degrees or something.
Honestly, it was like going into a bath. I go, this can't be good for anyone. And I went back to the hotel pool.
So just remember, everyone, that we, in Celsius, you measure 36.6 is the regular external temperature measured on the human body. It can be warmer on the inside, but our cooling mechanisms, our external skin temperature will show up at around about, it can be 35 to 37, right, pretty much. But yeah.
It truly was like going into a warm bath.
Yeah.
And your friends are correct that if you want relief, you go back to your hotel room, you sit in the restaurant, you go into the pool, which wasn't heated. I can tell you that. Completely pointless. But that's the equator, right? But if we're getting to 50s, and I don't know if that's going to happen for the East Coast or any of the coastal areas, but if it were to happen, that would significantly alter the water temperature near the coast. Because it does heat up in summer, obviously, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, so we have the East Australian current that takes the water down the coast, and the cold water comes up the coast, hugs the coast itself. So we have cold water coming up the coast, warm water going down, and if you're lucky enough for wherever you bathe in the ocean, at the beach, that you've got the warm water. Because one time years ago, it was probably around the 2000s, or 90s, we had 45 and a half degrees or something, in the air, and the water was 12 degrees. We had an Arctic blast of water come up the coast, and people were dying either of the heat or of the sudden exposure to cold.
Yeah, hypothermia sets in real quick at that temperature.
Yeah.
So, I think honestly at 12 degrees, I think you've got 20 minutes in the water.
Yeah, that's right.
That's because that's cold. Everybody.
It was too cold.
Yeah.
You had no option. And what's the worst thing to do when it's really hot? Well, go to the beach and enjoy a day at the beach, or an hour, and then you get back in the hot car and you drive home and you're hotter than when you started.
So that's correct. So tomorrow is Australia Day now, or Invasion Day, and in fact a lot of I think Woolworths was one of the shops that is not selling any Australia Day merchandise.
That's correct.
And let me just give you a bit of background. Australia, of course, is controversial, similar, I guess, to Columbus Day in America, where we are. Yes, that's when the white people came. It wasn't really good for the indigenous people that were here. So should we celebrate it? Well, maybe have a different day, not the landing of the first fleet,
as
it were.
Right.
And call it something else, or keep it calling it Australia Day, but then make it something that is more inclusive, because right now the day, inadvertently or advertently, if that's a word, is celebrating the arrival of the first fleet and
it coincides with it, and it's very kind of poor form, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, it's Invasion Day as far as the indigenous population is concerned, and I get it, 100%. And of course, hundreds of thousands of indigenous people were killed as a consequence, and cultures were destroyed. Cultural artifacts were lost, etc., etc. So, should be celebrated. Now, 30 years ago, when I came to Australia, nobody would have asked that question.
No,
that's right. Wasn't at all on the agenda. Nothing, right? Now, 30 years later, is it a better place? It's not a better place because we still have the same issues, Aboriginal deaths in custody, etc., etc. But it has entered the psyche, the Australian psyche, that it is not okay. It's not okay, and you're right, Dave. I think that's a good idea. So why don't you just share with everybody what you just put in the chat?
Yeah, Simeki and I do chat to each other while the other one's talking. So there was some momentum a couple of years back when it first was raised that this probably, I think we should take a hard look at ourselves and not celebrate Australia Day on the date on which we invaded the country. Well, May 8th was a great day because it's like saying mate. May 8th. Mate. So Mate's Day.
Like, like dentist hour, 2:30.
2:30.
Dentist hour, 2:30. Get it, mate? It's the same. Come on, it was funny.
In the 80s and 90s, if you didn't have a personalised plate, where it just confused most of the population, except you knew what it said, because you can only do so many things with 6 letters, right? If you're lucky in California, you had 7 letters to work with. So yeah, Mate's Day was pushed as an idea then. I think we're going to see that come back again with force this time. The only problem is this is a public holiday weekend, but next year and the year after, Australia Day falls on the weekend, and we're not getting the holiday.
We're not?
No. I only
How
found
about that, Apple?
Yeah, so we probably want to move it. I think we've got less than a year now to have that moved to May 8th, and let's just call it that. We could still have this day as, I don't know what you would call it. We wouldn't call it Invasion Day. I'm sure we'd turn it around to some kind of apology day or something like that, right? We're entirely sorry.
It should be called Unity Day. That's what we make.
Unity. There you go.
Hey, how about that, Apples?
Yeah.
But of course, easier said than done when truly we have no unity at all, right? And that's
say that now.
Yeah, I know. I just there's some interesting stuff that is happening prior to Australia Day. In Melbourne, there was a statue of Captain James Cook.
Oh, that was taken down.
It was taken down. Let's. What happened was they chopped it off at the ankles, okay, with an angle grinder,
mm-hmm.
And then it fell. So yes, it was not taken down. It was chopped at the ankles with an angle grinder, and that's how they found it. Now that statue had been on target in previous years, being splashed with paint, etc. But this was the first time they actually physically damaged it by cutting him off at the ankles. Now. It is in the same. See, because Dave, we asked the question, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to looking at our history, which is not pretty, but then no history is pretty. It isn't. If we knew more about the indigenous history, I'm sure there'd be things we're going, that's not really nice. Or or in a history of any country, I don't care which country it is, there's always something to be ashamed of. There just is. It's just how it is. And slavery was not invented by white people. I just want to say that here as well. Okay, slavery. It's not a color issue. Slavery has always been an issue of conquest, of losing or winning battles, of social oppression, etc., etc. Right. So history is full of misery. Okay, it just is. And then the question becomes, well, how far back in history do we need to go to rectify this, and how far should we go back, acknowledging that something went wrong, and how far back should we go, removing statues of people, like in America? Recently, they removed a lot of Civil War statues of generals, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And now this is the same with Captain Cook. Now Captain Cook did lead the first fleet here, right? To the chagrin of the indigenous population, but the Colosseum was built by slaves. Okay, in Rome, the Colosseum was built by slaves. The pyramids, even though doesn't want to have a bar of it, the pyramids were probably built by slaves. There was no union labor then, so I don't think that these workers were all that thrilled. And slavery and so forth has been with us for all time. And make no mistake, in Africa, the people that were capturing or I guess, getting these slaves were Africans, right? They were Africans selling Africans. Now, I'm not making any apologies here. I'm just telling you what it was. This is the truth of it, right? Now, you can't sell something that nobody wants to buy. So, obviously the market is at fault here as well.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, where do you stop? Where do you stop? How far do you go back? I mean, the Romans completely destroyed the civilization of Carthage. Nothing remained. They salted the earth. All we know about it is what the Romans tell us. All right, and the Romans vandalized, raped, and pillaged all over Europe. Okay, they killed hundreds of thousands of people, enslaved more. That's the Romans. And the Persians weren't any better. The Mongols weren't any better. The Chinese weren't any better. And if you look at the indigenous people of the Americas, if you look at African empires, if you look at the indigenous people of Australia and the Pacific, cannibalism was a thing as well. Nobody can throw the first stone, if you know what I'm talking about. Nobody. But how far back do you go?
Yeah, nobody's clean. That's right.
Yeah, but do we now remove all statues of Captain Cook and Governor Phillip and whoever?
Well, lucky it wasn't a true bronze.
Yeah.
Where they just coated the person's body in it.
Yeah, that's right. Or do we? What about the monarchies that are still in existence? Are we going to execute those monarchs now because of the crimes that were committed by their forebears? They're only enjoying being monarchs now because they had some really bloodthirsty and ruthless ancestors. That's a fact.
Well, that's how towns were taken.
Yeah.
That's how countries were made.
Yeah.
It was through conflict.
My hometown in Germany, Spich, which is about 20 clicks from Cologne and 20 clicks from Bonn, so right in the middle, I guess, was destroyed except for 4 or 5 houses in the 30 Years' War. That was in 1618 to 1648. Do I go back that far and blame the French or the Swedish? Will I? I mean, come on. Where do you draw the line? Seriously, I'm asking a serious question. Where do we say stop? No further. I mean, do we, without the Mongol and Tatar invasion of Europe, there would be no Slavic race.
That's right.
The high cheekbones and the Slavic look. The Russians, the Polish, etc., etc. That's only there because of the Mongol and the Hunnic invasions. So it has changed the face of us, really, right? as a race.
Oh, totally.
As a human. I don't know, Dave. I don't know. Where do you stop?
Well, you're right. And remember what history did for us? It reminded us of where we've come from. And I argue, I don't know whether it's entirely successful, my argument, but I think all good journeys start from knowing where you are. And it is knowing where you are and where you're going. And if you've forgotten the past, are you just truly destined to repeat all of the bad things again? Probably. Yeah. Isn't that the cyclical way of humanity? If we keep erasing the past, what are we really doing? Are we just reinventing ourselves again to make all the same mistakes? And I think that's the big failure here. You can't... A nation who decides, like an individual who decides they're just going to reinvent themselves because, I got into some strife, so look, if I'm just going to be someone else now. Right? Have they dealt with anything? No.
Yeah.
They've just kind of wrapped up all the problems and discarded it out the window along the freeway. They've done nothing. They haven't changed. They're still the same person. Reinventing yourself doesn't change who you are. You can change your hair color or your name, but you're still you. Your life lessons are there as you wear them proudly as scars. That's why I walk with a limp. I'm making that up. I'm not 50 Cent. You could probably tell because I don't sound at all like it. So that's the problem, Mickey. That's what I see. But I mean, I'm not going to segue it. I'll just hand it back.
Look, Dave put something in the chat I do want to spend some time on because it's really important.
And it's exactly the words you've said before.
I was going to say that, right? So there's this gentleman. Sorry, it's who is this? Oh, anyway, it's Breakfast with Kay Burley, and apparently this is Sky News. There's a 1939 feel to the world right now. This is not out there in the open media, right? Or so they say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, actually, that's not entirely accurate. It's
Tobias Elwood.
Oh, Tobias Elwood. Yes, mm-hmm. he's not wrong, but it's a feel of 1913 and 1939. So just prior to World War I and prior to World War II. This is what it feels like right now. It's the same, or if not the same, a very similar situation we are facing right now, mm-hmm. Globally, with empires rising, empires falling, a very unstable political overall environment, and the realization that international politics, I mean, a realization by the masses, right, that international politics is in fact anarchy. There's no order to international politics at all.
That's right.
It's a complete power play.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, that's right. Look the other way.
That's what we've discovered. That is going on. One of the points that he makes in this video is in this interview, and it's Sky News, but the interview is solid. They give him enough time to be able to explain it a lot better than I'm doing right now. But when he says exactly those words, Becky, he said, it feels like it's got all the components right now of what was around then. This heavy military manufacturing going on right now in all the places you never wanted it to be. And then as a net result of all of that military machinery being created came military action. And that's where he's saying, world economics, world power, rising and falling, conflicts everywhere. And they've also mentioned the other thing. He says, well, we should just start conscription now. That's what he's saying.
Look,
they're his words, they're not mine.
No. This is what's going to happen. There will not be a nuclear war. Okay, and because that's game over, and nobody is going to do that. I don't think anybody would do that.
The parasites don't win, Mackie.
Exactly. Okay, nuclear war. The threat of nuclear war, yeah, that's real. A limited nuclear exchange with tactical nuclear weapons, maybe. No strategic nuclear weapons, because that would be game over, right? So, and everybody knows this. Now, are people crazy enough to do it? You know what?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't think so, but you can never discount the craziness. I just don't think it will happen. What will happen is a massive war with conventional weapons, right? And our conventional weapons are plenty good enough to kill plenty of people, don't worry. Mm-hmm. And you also have to look at it from the point of view of the armament manufacturers. The thing is this. War is good as long as it is not total.
That's right.
Meaning, yeah, if you destroy all manufacturing capabilities, you destroy the ability to make money, nobody wants this. The parasites don't want this, nobody wants this. Money still has to be made. And these are the people that have the power. These are the people that want the wars.
Yeah.
Right? And unfortunately, in my estimation, right now, the situation we find ourselves in, okay, to get out of it from a economic point of view, from a socio-political point of view, even from a natural point of view, if as far as climate change, etc., is concerned, well, there's no way for us to get out of it. Put it short. There's nothing we can do to make it better, because we are all now part of this death spiral of our overall economic system. Our economic system is no longer viable. Okay? The only way you could get out of it was to print more money, increase the money supply, which of course leads to hyperinflation, which of course leads to complete collapse of your currency.
That's
as
right.
We've seen many, many times. But it's the only way you can get out of it, because you have to spend more and more and more and more to keep up, with cost of living pressures, etc., and so forth and whatnot. And what they've done now in Australia, they have taken the tax cut they were going to give the final income bracket, halved it, and given it to the rest of Australia. Now, that's actually not a bad thing, because Australia is struggling, and to be honest with you, taking that tax cut and then making it more, distributing it more equally, I don't really have a problem with that, to be honest with you.
But the numbers are small, Mackie.
It's big enough, but there's a lot more extra money now in a whole bunch of more pockets, which will be spent. Which, if we can believe it, will go to hairdressers, and that's the main evil when it comes to inflation, going to the hairdresser.
Not the telephone hygienist, Mackie.
Not the telephone hygienist. They're going to be shopping for the summer. But the comments that are coming out of the people that are meant to right the ship, as it were, right?
Yes.
The new governor for the Federal Reserve, etc., in Australia. The comments they make is like Marie Antoinette's fictitious "let them eat cake"
That's
comment.
right.
Now, she never said that, okay? But you know what? No, they're going to eat the rich. They're not going to eat cake. They're going to eat the rich. Is what they're going to do, because it is so far out of touch. And you have to understand, again, these people, none of the decisions they make affect them.
Not at all. That's right.
The politicians, the bureaucrats, the people, the governors, whatever you want to call them, all the people that hold the strings of power are in a position to make decisions for everybody else that do not affect them. And we must hope that they have our best interest at heart, which is, of course, complete nonsense. Of course they don't. Of course they don't. Come on. Really? If they did, there wouldn't be any private schools, everybody. Oh, but my kids should go to private school. Why? Oh, because... Yeah, but most people can't afford private school. Yeah, but that's them. Them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Them. What do you mean them? Well, the ones that can't afford a board and don't have a house in Mossman. That's those ones. But it is the truth, right? And the class distinctions always exist.
So, if you're struggling to send your children to private school, then you're really not one of us.
That's what they say.
That's what they would say. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
If you're struggling, you really shouldn't be.
And let's be clear: is a private school better from an academic point of view? Maybe. And I say maybe because it all depends on your child's ability, the teachers, and how, So you should expect a better curriculum and better materials, and maybe even better teachers. Okay.
Yeah, really well-funded facilities.
Yeah, but that's not why people send their kids to private school.
No.
People send their kids to private school, and this is what happened to Rishi Sunak in England. They sent him to private school to speak in the right tone and to meet the right people and become friends with the right people.
That's right.
And that's it. And if you can afford it, then go ahead and do it, right? Because that'll set your kids up for life. And but most people can't afford $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, $45,000 a year per child, mind you. Okay, and that's just for school fees. Okay, so it is an inherently unequal system. In Germany, I'll be honest with you, and in fact in Europe overall that I knew, except for England maybe, I didn't even know where private schools were. I had no idea. I'm sure they existed, private schools that is, but everybody that I knew and everybody that was in the neighborhood, or even people that I met, they all went to public schools. Okay, now in Germany, the schooling system is split into three. It's a main school, a real school or Realschule, and then a grammar school, which is then gymnasium, which is preparing you for university. Okay, and but private school, that never even came up in conversation as a thing. And my father was pretty well to do, and we knew a lot of people that were pretty well to do. But private school was just one. It never crossed anyone's horizon. Coming to Australia, that was a very different scenario, very different. We had no idea, so I went to public school, which was a whole. But only went there for 2 years, and still I met a few good people there, so this wasn't all wasted. But certainly, we had no idea coming to Australia that there was such a divide between private schools and public schools. And of course, in England, unless you go to the right private schools and then the right universities, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I know. So I'm going to take this one step further. So I'll discuss the bottom layer, and I don't do this with any hatred. Yeah. What I thought that all of those noble jobs, Becky, that kept the streets clean and collected our garbage and did menial tasks and I say menial, just hard labor tasks. Tradespeople, cleaners, pool people, gardens, all of those roles. When I went to California, I was surprised that a lot of those were from people that were from south of the border, and I was amazed because I'd heard a lot of it as rhetoric, but I never actually saw it. And then I saw it, and I went, well, okay, that it makes sense that you would have. Does it make it cheaper? Probably, right? Is it because people don't want to do it? I don't think normal people want to do it for that little money. It's probably why that's the genre it is, or known as that. But now we've created another class in Australia, and that is the DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever you want to call it, of contractor who isn't an employee. They're just a contract worker to deliver something to somebody from one place to another on a contract. They have no legal right to do anything except for the work. In
fact, I would go as far as saying not even contractor, because all they're doing, and this is what these companies argue, all they're doing is using a platform.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's right.
And
it's all wording.
Yeah, and it's like, so what is your relationship with these people? We have no relationship with these people. There is no relationship. They are consuming our service in the same way that the person that's ordering the food or the car, whatever,
that's right,
is using our service. All we're doing is we're bringing these two parties together, says the platform.
Mm-hmm. And we make money off it.
Yeah, but it's just a usage fee, right? Yeah. Because the truth is, the company doesn't really pay them. The person that orders the food pays a service fee to the person that is delivering the food.
That's it.
Right? And see, you're 100% correct, because from a legal point of view, we don't really know what to do with that. I mean,
no.
What? They're not employee. No, they're not. Well, who's at fault? What happens if an Uber car has an accident and the passenger dies? Who's at fault? Well,
the driver.
The driver.
That's right.
The driver.
Not us, because they're not an employee. That's right.
No, and the thing is this, right?
All the laws that have been stood up for 200 years to protect the worker as an employee, they don't exist. They don't work in this case.
They don't apply anymore.
They don't apply.
So let's look at the just the taxis for a second. So a taxi has to be serviced, I think, 3 or 4 times a year, right?
Yeah.
It has to undergo rigorous service, has to be roadworthy, etc. The taxi driver has to undergo
Barely.
tests
Yep.
and be free of drugs, etc., etc. And there could be a drug test anytime for a taxi driver.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly rigorously regulated. So it was so these taxi licenses used to be worth a lot of money because they're hard to come by.
Each.
Right?
Yeah.
But now the Uber driver, all the Uber driver has to have is a license, pretty much, and a car. That's it.
They have to have a car that's no older than a certain amount of years.
Yeah. But when was the last service? I don't know. I don't care.
That's right.
But is the driver a good driver? I don't know. I don't care.
That's right.
This is really the problem here. There are no quality controls. There are no quality controls in any of these platform services. The same goes for Airbnb. This is the hotels have to have fire exits, for example. I mean,
they're good. Yeah.
You mean? Yeah, they're helpful. They have to have certain safety and security measures.
I stayed at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah, the year before it burnt down.
That's useful. But
maybe think twice. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but a private home doesn't have to have any of this. Doesn't even have to be insured.
Yeah.
I mean, so what, right? So this is, unless something really big happens, right, and something goes catastrophically wrong somehow, somewhere, it's no man's land. There are two parties that are using a platform. Say the platforms. That's it. I got a new link. I don't care. But is it tenable as in our society? Well, to create the underclasses, Dave has said, yeah.
It's kind of a new underclass that just appeared.
Yeah, no rights. You have no rights.
That's right.
You're using a computer platform. It's called the gig economy. What a nonsense that is, a gig economy. And you know, if you can't make enough money on it, well, that's on you. And Amazon and others are using similar models.
Yeah.
Right? Even though there you could argue they're really contractors to Amazon, delivering things and such. But ultimately, we have created a really massive problem for ourselves here. That will have repercussions well into the future. And again, the only way out of all of this is through a fairly significant war. And Dave has just shared some information here where the Brits are sort of saber rattling and might be looking at conscription. That's not going to sit well for most Europeans, I can tell you that. Because the mantra for the last 40 years in Europe has been reduce our armies. Reduce our armies.
That's because it's been a high spend. But now, does it matter? I don't think it matters. I don't think the spend matters. I don't think that's the top of mind problem that's boiled to the top anymore. I think to preserve Europe in its, at least in a dream state of what they think it should be, despite England leaving the EU in a right mess, I think that this is trying to preserve what they remembered. That the dreamware it's vaporware. It doesn't really exist. Everyone was just getting along, but there is blame at the moment on Germany for not wanting to do more and holding some of their own drills outside of NATO. NATO's going, well, if Russia gets to the border, we're all gonna have a hard time. And I think this is one of those high-level discussions that's occurred outside of somewhere, outside of the public eye, and they've decided that we better let this slip now, before we do it, otherwise it'll be too much of a shock. So they've done a leak, get these people out there talking about it, reacting to it, and then it'll all make it kind of go away. And then tomorrow, when conscription starts, everyone I didn't argue against it. See, I should have argued against it. I
wonder though if people would go, because the thing is this: we're now in generation the millennials or whatever they're called, or Generation Z. I don't know, right? Whatever they're called. Would they go if they're called up?
Well,
No, I'm not going. Why would I be going?
If they had Starlink.
Yeah. Because, well, the thing is, back in the day,
yeah,
even for the Vietnam War, well, actually, no, not so much for Vietnam, I think, but certainly World War II, maybe Korea, and I'm talking about, for the West here. Other conflicts, of course, have always been supported by the local populace or not, if it was existential, like in Yemen and Sudan, etc. But for the West, we don't have that attitude anymore. We don't have that worldview anymore of rah rah rah, let's go to war.
And that
rah,
patriotism.
Rah. Not a thing. Not really. Not really. It would take a lot, I think, for people to feel like, I'm going to fight Russia. Why? Why am I going to fight Russia? What did Russia do to me?
If Russia exploded a weapon over England, that cut all of their power, never to be restored again. Yeah, sure.
Well, you see, now we're getting into very dangerous territory of false flag operations.
Yeah, what about that tidal wave bomb that Russia says they could just wash England clean?
Well, look, it wouldn't take a lot. I mean, if you place a nuke or even a conventional weapon near an unstable fault line, you can create tsunamis. Fairly pinpointed too. Look, again, right? It's all possible. It's all possible, but it would take that. Would take that kind of thing for people to go rah rah rah. Okay.
I know that my kids get a bit upset when I turn the internet off. All right. I make it so that their own SSID can't get streaming services. Wow. They come storming out of their bedrooms so fierce. That's all you'd have to do.
Did you read?
Imagine if they blew up, if someone tore up the undersea cables leading to England.
Oh, that would be good. But, did you read Ready Player One? Or watch the movie?
I haven't seen it yet. I should actually watch it since I've got some time up my sleeve.
I like the book. Of course, the movie is not bad either. I have to say, it's pretty. Like, the visualization is awesome. But his parents, this is like the first couple of pages, they died in the bandwidth rise of 2030 or 2040, whatever he said. That's so look, I can see how non-access to the internet would really
because that's their only currency.
Down. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It would be completely crippling. I mean, something I don't fully understand. I mean, if I lose internet, I can't work. Okay.
Well, you'll reach behind you and pull a book out. I actually start reading from your I've got to read this pile.
Yeah, that's exactly.
To be honest.
That's it's piling up. But Umberto Eco said you should always have more books in the pile than you've read. Sorry, unread than read. That's what you should aim for. It's really quite a conundrum, right? I mean, I can see how that could be a problem, and it would cause massive issues for the population, for the younger population, if they didn't have access to their social media feeds, etc. And maybe that's how you mobilize them, through social media. Maybe that's what you would do, right? Maybe that's the way to them.
Well, you know how we suddenly, this AUKUS deal that we're in, where we're only getting submarines, but now we're helping bomb Yemen.
Yeah.
I feel as though this AUKUS deal would stretch out to our responsibilities to fight in Ukraine. I think this would come to us as well.
Oh, not a doubt in my mind whatsoever. Not a doubt. And I only shake my head when I think about AUKUS.
What are we going to do when we don't have all of those Uber Eats drivers anymore?
I don't know. We're going to cook for ourselves. Well, God forbid we have to walk down to McDonald's and buy our own burgers.
At least it won't be cold. Yeah.
It won't be. There's that. But yeah, look, it's a really I sent Solaris a message the other week, and I said this. I fear that we're now in a part of the cycle out of which we can't extract ourselves anymore. So it's a really bad situation in many ways. You add to that the uncertainty of the economic situation, the uncertainty of the election in the States, which is still important, but make no mistake. What happens in the United States is still important on a global scale. Don't tell me this is the music.
That's
okay,
the music.
well, it's the music. Thank you so much for allowing us into your home, into your lives, into your device, whatever it is, for the past hour. We will come back to you with Shiny Side Out on Sunday, so tune into that. A new show cycle. Yeah, that's right, new show cycle. Hurrah! And donate if you can, but most of all, be safe.